Hey, I'm Sam Laidlow. This is the Greg Bennett Show. Any questions?
Welcome to the Greg Bennett Show, presented by Any Question. I'm your host, Greg Bennett, and I've just finished an absolutely delightful conversation with a young man that I knew was a great athlete, but I just didn't realize he was just such a great human being, and that is Sam Laidlow. Sam shares his journey in this episode and goes through everything about Kona Ironman, where he was second and just had such an incredible performance that made us all just stand up and go, wow, this is the future. And but what I loved about this conversation was just his tremendous love and passion for the sport of triathlon, his gratefulness to his family and his team, and just his respect for his peers around him. I just thoroughly enjoyed this conversation with just a really wonderful human being, like I said. A little bit of housekeeping before we go on. Firstly, thank you so much for listening to the show and sharing it, and I do love all your feedback. Please keep that coming. It is wonderful. Also, if you want to go over to anyquestion.com/podcast, we now have a promotion going on, 3 months free. Just put that in and you'll be able to use that link to be able to get 3 months free and go listen to many of the world's greatest athletes, scholars, health professionals across many, many different channels answering questions, and you can ask them all questions there. So go check it out, anyquestion.com/podcast. I hope you enjoy this episode as much as I did with Sam. It really was a fantastic one. And remember, success comes to those who endure just one moment longer. All right. Today, I am joined by a man who is leading the next generation of superstar triathletes, finishing second at the Kona IM World Championships 2 weeks ago in a time of 7 hours and 42 minutes, shattering the previous course record by 9 minutes and setting a new bike course record of 4 hours and 4, elevating him to number 4 in the world rankings. What I love is that he races without fear and with this controlled aggression, and he just knows who he is, he knows what he wants, and he's in control of his own life. He has an incredible team around him, and he's been steadily improving for years. But it was in the year of 2022 that the world really stood up and took notice with his incredible performances at the PTO US and Canadian Opens, where he was 4th at both of those, and his 8th place at the IM StGeorge IM World Championships. It's just an absolute privilege and an honor to just sit and chat. So welcome, and thanks for joining me on the Greg Bennett Show. Sam Laidlow, how are you, mate?
I'm very, very good. Yeah, very busy, but no, I can't complain. Life's been treating me super well, and yeah, it's genuinely an honor to be on your show, mate. I've listened to, I think, everyone.
Wow.
And yeah, to be amongst these names is again such a privilege. So thanks for having me on.
Oh, mate, it's just so great to have you on. It's like just being able to watch your career the last couple of years, especially this year. And I know there's probably a little bit of people going, where did the Sam Laidlow come from? But you've been there or thereabouts for years. You've had a few bike crashes and things that have kind of, you know, just set you back, but you've always been the guy that's been aggressive from the front. You love that style of racing. And for me, as a fan of the sport, I've always enjoyed watching you race. So to see you have the performance you did in Kona, to then have you say yes to coming on the podcast, it means the world to me, mate. So thanks again for coming on. Have you had a chance to decompress since the race, or has it been all media and meetings and everything else? What's it been like?
So I guess I was kind of like prepared for success, but not what comes after it. If you call it success, what happened? I mean, for me, relatively, it certainly was. I had a performance that, I mean, everything went right on the day, and even if I guess my career was to stop tomorrow, which I don't think it will, but I would be really proud of that performance I did on Kona. And as I said, it's been crazy since then. I didn't really realize how big an impact Kona had. I was speaking to Maka the other day, and he was saying that Kona's like the only currency, that and the Olympics are like the only currency of our sport, really. And so now I've got a little bit of money in triathlon terms, I guess, you know. And my head's been blown, you know. It's really taught me that I guess when I was a kid, I thought that you just had to swim, bike and run, and now I'm learning that it's way more than that, and trying to just kind of almost be the boss of your own ecosystem and choosing the people you want to help you along the way, because as we all know, it's an individual sport, but the performances don't come from one person, you know, and keeping the people who have been beside me all that time, mostly my family and a few close friends, but and also trying to just, now I'm getting to a point where people are wanting to help me, and that's great. And I really think that's going to be, like, for me, the next stepping stone is just in my results. It won't be, I'm still the same athlete, you know, it's mostly just all the small things and all the people around me who really want me to do good, that will help. So no, I haven't really had time to decompress, and even now I'm on a kind of business / road trip with my girlfriend, and I'll probably in about 2 weeks I'll hopefully would have decided who I'm going to work with, what contracts I'm going to sign, and then be able to take a few weeks off.
Wow, mate. Are you enjoying it? Are you enjoying this, or is it getting a bit old?
No, it's definitely not getting old. I am enjoying it. Also, I'm trying to, like, deliberately enjoy it. You know, I think if there's a few, like, people have given me lots of advice, experienced triathletes, and they just said, mate, like, just enjoy what you've done, what you've achieved. And and I generally don't know how some of the guys are going along to 70.3 Worlds and racing there. It's just, for me, I need a break. I need a few beers and glasses of champagne with my friends, and then be able to really build back up from there. I'm in no rush. My goal is, people are asking me already about what race I'm doing next year. I'm like, man, just let me have a rest. Like, I'll be ready for Kona, but anything before that, I'll see.
I love that. And what about your peers' reaction? You know, all the guys that you've raced, have you had much of an outpouring from them in terms of respect, and, you know, they understand what it takes? How's that been?
Yeah, I think mostly I've had, I guess there's the peers that are kind of my age who, of course, said, like, well done. And I guess in a way they're slightly inspired because, you know, I've trained with them, I've raced with them, and I'm at a very similar level. And it just shows that how close that line is between just being, like, I don't know, seventh in a race, and then actually, like, being able to perform on a world stage. And I think what really helped me is that I was racing on emotion, you know, and I'd been building towards that race my whole life, and it just kind of all poured out on that day. Speaking to Sebi after the race, he was saying that like, I know what it feels to race like you did, you know, you weren't even looking at your power numbers or anything, you couldn't feel the pain, and that's exactly what happened to me. You know, I just felt, clearly I had good legs, but everything was running smoothly, and I felt controlled, and everything was going my way. You know, the gap was getting bigger and bigger on the bike, and on the run I just felt good, and almost like knew that I wasn't going to blow up the first time, because as you said before, I've always felt like I've been on the cusp of something. You know, I knew I could run that kind of time in a marathon. I just hadn't been able to put it together with a decent bike, and if there was one day to do it, I guess Kona was the one.
Seriously, mate, it really was an amazing performance. So what I want to do then is, you know, you've touched on Kona. I kind of want to start the show by reflecting on that performance in Kona a little bit more. And then I really just want to rewind the clock and listen to your journey and dissect, you know, your physical, your mental, your emotional preparation over the years, and what that's all been about. So let's start with Kona. And I really just have one question for you, because I've always heard you say, you know, since a young age, it was always about Kona. And for me, I just got the question, why Kona? And why is Kona so important to you?
Yeah, so my parents own a triathlon training camp business. I kind of grew up in that environment with just having loads of age groupers come to my place from all around the world and just talk to me about this Kona. And it was, for me, in my head, you know, as a kid, it was bigger than the Olympics, bigger than, I don't know, Wimbledon, any big tennis match or anything. It was just, there was nothing in my little head that was bigger than Kona. So and then, I just found myself watching it on TV and then realised that actually I was the only one staying up watching it. And, I've kind of studied the history of this race for a long time and been inspired by so many guys. So yeah, that's how it came about. And I never actually, so when Gustav came past me and kind of said, "Well done," we shaked hands. It never even crossed my mind in that instant that it kind of referred to Maka and Raylett's moment, which is also I'm so happy that did happen. And people ask me if it's like if it was like kind of like put on, if I had to deliberately think about doing that, but actually it's just like so instinctive, with so much respect between athletes at that level. And and on top of that, Gustav's a great guy. I didn't even think twice that it would kind of be compared to what happened between Maka and Raylett. Yeah.
I love that the history. I love that you've been so involved in the sport for so long, that your whole family's involved in the sport of triathlon. I just think it's really, really awesome. As you were gearing up for Kona this year, obviously we haven't had a Kona for a number of years, and we're all really excited about watching it and having it come apart. When was it then you realized a great race was possible? Was that this year? Was it 18 months ago? When did you start to go, I could do something special in Kona?
I think, as I said before, that mostly comes from the people around you. I think deep down my dad, especially, just with the numbers I was doing in training, always thought that I could do better than what I had done. But then again, he's not the most expressive of guys, so he wouldn't tell me that. And but yeah, I always believed it, I think, deep down. And I think, let's say after St. George, I came 8th, and I just come back from COVID, and I knew I'd got myself healthy, but I was so unfit relatively. And I kind of realized then that if I can come 8th, and I'm unfit, it won't take me that much more to have a good performance. But to then be to do that time, to go 8 minutes faster than when Jan broke the record, that, to be honest, it hadn't crossed my mind. It's more than I could have imagined, at least for that year. I kind of knew the sport. In St. George, there was 8. So I think I was the first guy to not go over 8 hours. And St. George was a bit slower course than Kona. And so I was in my head, I was like, Jesus, we're going to get to Kona, and the first 10 guys are going to go under 8 hours. And that's exactly what happened.
Wow.
But I don't know where the belief, it was almost, there was a period definitely where I lost that belief. So as a kid, you grow up and you can be whatever you want. If you want to be an astronaut, then that's fine. People say, oh yeah, it's great, you can be an astronaut when you're older. And then as you get a bit older and kind of go to school, and I don't know, just general society kind of tells you now you need to get a real job, you need to fit into a box basically. And so I kind of lost, or certainly deviated from the route. I got quite quickly told to obviously go down the short course route as a youngster in the sport. And I had some amazing experiences there. I was 14 and racing on the Grand Prix series, with guys like Alistair and Gomez, and I was the youngest guy there. So very early on, I had some great experiences in the sport. And then I kind of just realized that actually, I can't remember what exactly it was that set it off, but I was living in a flat on my own in Montpellier and racing short course and training so hard, trying to study at the same time. And I wasn't earning a penny or very little. My parents were paying my flat, and I was like, wait a minute, I'm doing everything wrong here. I'm not doing long course. My parents have run a triathlon training camp business. My dad's a coach. What's stopping me basically? And so I kind of quit all that. And at the time I was in the French base, and there was only two guys that got selected for that to train there. And so it was a really privileged spot to be in, and never had anybody actually deliberately left it, so I left there, and people were saying, wow, you're gonna quit everything, you're gonna just become, I don't know, start working in Lidl or something. No offense to anybody who works in Lidl, but so I just went back to my place and said to my dad, listen, I want to win Kona, and how do we get there? So we were like, okay, let's do an Ironman now, see what level you're at, and then kind of build from there. And I think we worked it out. And even if I got 1% better every year, by the time I was, I can't remember now, I think by the time I was 26 or 27, I'd have the world record. This was just this Kona, excluding Kona, just on a kind of fast Ironman course. And then when I was 20, I went and did my first one, and I did Ironman Barcelona, did 8:04, came 7th, I think, or something. But that year I was so strict on myself. I naturally have a very black or white character, and I was just trying to do too much, trying to not eat enough, I was eating no carbs. I was just being silly and stupid. And I always have to learn for myself, even if somebody says don't do that, I generally have to go through it myself to realize that. I'm super stubborn, and I guess that's why I've kept at it and got this podium. So yes, stubbornness can be a good or bad thing.
You know what I love about what you just said is we all get caught up in what we're supposed to do. What's the typical way of doing something? To be successful at Ironman, you need to do the World Cup series, you need to do the short course racing, improve yourself there, and then carry that speed over into Ironman. And, in your mid-30s or early 30s, that's when you switch. And, you came home and it showed an amazing amount of maturity to step away and say, actually, my true passion and my dream and who I am as a person is not all about the short course racing and everything I'm meant to be doing at 18, 19. It's Ironman Kona and stepping away from that. And there's a huge, that's kind of like a bold, risky kind of way of doing something, because there hasn't been a lot of young people that have been very successful at Kona. And yourself, you're kind of leading the way going, hey, you can be successful at Ironman at a young age if you really, really want to make it happen. There's no reason why not. And I think that's really commendable. I think out of everything that you've done, it's laying the foundation for a lot of other younger athletes that say, hey, my dream is maybe not the short course racing, it's this over here. And so it's really cool.
Yeah, I think they used to be frowned upon, didn't it, really, to do like any long distances when you were a kid. Yeah. They used to do like more intensity, and actually looking back, I think probably doing too much intensity probably like affected my health more as a kid. And one of the first things I kind of noticed when I moved away from the French centre and back home was that actually like I was like super unhealthy. I was training hard, like not eating probably how I should, not sleeping enough, and it just wasn't working out. And when I think almost making the kid do a bit, just like, I don't know, there's nothing wrong with him doing a 3-hour or 4-hour ride. I think that's almost less impact than making him do like loads of VO2 efforts or
100%.
I don't know. For me, my immune system really took a hit, and actually so I was like, I don't know, I was meant to be 1.94 m or something, and I was kind of growing, and when I was 14 and went away, I like stopped growing. And then when I came back after about six months or so of being back home, so I was 19, I started growing again, So, and for me, that also came from like I got my bloods done like for the first time ever when I was 19. I went to Girona and asked the same doctor as Jan actually to just check my bloods, see if everything's running smoothly, because I really felt that I was training hard but just not getting anywhere. And he was like, well, no shit, mate. Like you've got like no iron basically, and nothing. I was empty, and yeah. So I really think that then it's also like people always say that, like, I don't know, when you're a kid and you're at school and stuff, that are like, if you complain about school to your parents, they'll always be like, oh, but wait until you're older. Like this, you've got the easy life for now. But actually, like for me, them years were like so hard, and I think lots of sporting like adolescents have the same issue. Is that it's not sustainable really, getting up at whatever 5, going for a swim, then going to class and then studying and training again. And I actually found it like really, really hard, and it's just too much for a kid. And I have a younger brother now, he's 10, and we're certainly not making the same mistakes. Actually, yesterday we had some blood tests with him, like, and I wished really that we'd done that before. And I think lots of people put kind of the training before your general health, and actually, like, there's no I don't see any point training your body if you're not healthy in the first place. So yeah, laying the right foundations, I think, is really important. And yeah, I mean, coming back to the whole, I hope that more kids think that they can go straight into Ironman, and I don't think I'm necessarily, I might be one of the first in triathlon, but I think we've already seen it in elite cycling, when Bernal started winning the Tour, and then Pogacar, and there's like, yeah, there was no question that it was going to arrive in triathlon anytime.
Yeah, I just think that, what you've done, the maturity to understand that your general health needs to be in place before you can really put the hammer down. And what's also different than you, there have been a few other younger athletes that might have come over to Ironman earlier, but often they didn't have the 3 disciplines like you do. Like you can swim, bike, and run, right? You may not be the fastest runner in the world, but your swim and bike would have you at any Olympics, at any ITU World Series race in the lead group, ready to lay down a run. And your run would have come had you wanted it to. But it's a little bit, you were at the pointy end of those races had you wanted to go that way. Whereas a lot of younger athletes will be like, well, I don't have the swim, so I'm never in the race, so I'll just keep going longer until it matters, right? Until I can get away with it. So I love the fact that you actually had the option, you made the right decision because you're looking at things like your health, and then you pulled the trigger. I do have a question because you seemed, like I said in the introduction, you're an aggressive racer, but I was very careful in the way I said that. You race with controlled aggression because I don't see you as just throwing all caution to the wind. There is a very much a calculated aggression to you. But it seems to me that you're somebody that where racing off the front is important to you. And I'm just curious, why is it so important to you to be toughening up the race and being the guy that's out front?
Yeah, I think it's just almost like a natural instinct thing. I always have like this great plan before the race, I don't know, sticking to wattage or doing this or doing that. But generally, I always throw it out the window as soon as I have a bib on my back. And but yeah, equally, I kind of feel that. So yeah, you're saying it's controlled aggression, but there's been many periods, many races where it was just aggression and it wasn't controlled at all, and it didn't work out. But I think I've always said from a while back now that like to win a race, I really want to understand what it takes to win and be up front. See what it takes to win, and I guess that's how it's come about. It's I think we've seen that with so when you see Alistair race his first Olympics, he just he just went balls out, until it blew up. And I kind of feel that the best guys, that's almost like their natural instinct. But for me, racing's always worked out a lot better when I have raced aggressively. I guess I just like to steer the boat. And the day when I do win, I really want it to be in a dominating way. My goal long term is to win Kona, from start to finish. Really have the fastest bike, the fastest swim, and the fastest run, and that's generally my goal. And I think that's the only way of having. I don't think it's the only way, but I think lots of people, few people have won Kona now, and I guess nobody's done it in the way I just said. Even I have this silly idea of next year trying to get the swim record, and then just working really hard on my run to see if we can get this run record, and then I would hold simultaneously all 3. But yeah, I'm a long way off that. But yeah, that's certainly what I'm striving towards. And I guess even if I don't achieve exactly that, I'll do something decent.
I think there's like you said, it's firstly, I love the ambitious. I think it's the ambitious goal you have, because I think it's very optimistic, but I truly believe it's realistic after coming off your performance, a couple of weeks ago. And I think the only person, who is it? Lucy Charles Barclay at 70.3 World Championships last year, I think is the only world title, and I'm going to have everybody call and prove me wrong on this, but I believe it's the only world title we've seen at the 70.3 at IM where the winner has had the fastest swim, bike, and run, and Lucy did that last year.
Crazy, yeah.
Yeah. So, mate, I think you can be the first man to do it. From what we've just seen, the swim, I believe you can do. The bike you've already got, and that run, you ran a 2:44. You've been in the 250s, but here you are dropping a 2:44 after a 4:04 bike, with the 2 Norwegians and Max Newman trying to chase you down. So there's that element of pressure. But you kept it together and really laid down an amazing race. Were you surprised to be on the bike up front on your own? Were you thinking maybe, where's Magnus Ditlev? Did you know he had a penalty? Were you thinking there would be other people joining you?
Yeah, so I guess when I attacked them right at the very start, I was like, in my head, I was like, oh, here we go again. You've made another bad decision, Sam. And but I kind of had to commit from there onwards. So kind of just kept pegged in. And
you've made another bad decision, Sam. I love the positive self-talk at the start.
Oh, man. I mean, it's not all positive, as you know, whatever's going on in our brains from racing. But and then I was just keeping towards the top end of my wattage, and everybody was saying that like the race really starts from when you get to the turnaround. And Magnus caught me up at one point, I think like just before the turnaround, and then also the Norwegians did, and I kind of thought, well, they've probably worked quite hard, and actually I thought, well, actually maybe to get to the turnaround, I've actually been a bit more conservative, like my efforts were more stable than theirs, and then on the way back, I was really expecting Magnus Magnus is an even bigger guy than me, and I've raced him before in Texas, and that guy, when he picks up speed, he's like we have a train in France called a TGV. It's just a massive train that goes very fast. Anyways, like that. And I thought that he would come. Just like my goal in my head was just to be able to stick with him on the descent. No, I mean, I got through the personal aid session quite quickly and started pedaling, and I really felt like I was picking up speed really well, and I could see that I'd kind of got a small gap, and so I just stayed with it. I think Magnus's strategy from there, I think part of the reasons that Magnus probably thought that I was going to blow up on the run, so he decided to stay with the Norwegians because it was already a very elite group. You know, I mean, clearly we'd done something to break other people up. So they kind of let me go, and yeah, I thought that Magnus would drop them at one point, but I got told he had a penalty with about 40 or 50k to go, and then same. I mean, the wind started picking up, so we had a really good tailwind, and I guess the difference in weight then between like a guy like Gustav and me becomes less prominent, and so I'm just putting more power down, you know, than him because I'm a bigger guy, and that's where it really had effects. And yeah, I mean, also this was the first race where I had some decent equipment, you know. Before then I was riding on a frame that was too small, and obviously like you saw Head brought out their new wheel, and I generally think that's really good at certain yaw angles, and so there was just so many small things that kind of made it for me to have a breakthrough performance. So I genuinely thought that a guy like Magnus would have a better day. Also, Florian Anger. I think that next year, me and Florian will be up front. But it's equally weird that all the best cyclists kind of got a penalty. I just find it, something a bit suspicious.
There was a lot of penalties this year. It really, and was it overtaking penalties? Is that what was happening? They were coming in too soon. Do you know what?
I saw the video. The only one I saw was the video of Florian Anger get a penalty.
Yeah,
and that was, I mean, literally, I don't even know what happened because he was second in line and he overtook the guy who was first to kind of come to the front, and he got a penalty. And I generally think it's really weird that all the guys who, like, if you were to list guys to not get penalties, they were the ones. They were the ones, you know. Apart from probably me, because I was at the front and they couldn't give me a penalty. But I just I just find it a bit weird, and I really hope there's nothing behind it, you know, because that could be terrible for the sport.
Yeah, for me, all I could think as I was watching it, going, it must be for the way they're overtaking. Like they're coming out and they're just coming in too soon. And I don't know the exact rules, but I think you got to wait until you're 12 meters in front until you can slot back in. And so maybe they were slotting back in at 9 meters. I don't know, whatever. I don't like to see so many penalties, especially when you know it's for some of the best athletes in the world that are doing what they can.
Exactly.
So yeah, a bit frustrating. When you got to the marathon, were you doing constant math? I find leading a race is constant mathematics, and I actually find a lot of great endurance athletes are quite good at math because it's all about understanding how much energy you have left and what are the time gaps. What was that like for you onto the marathon?
Yeah, I was actually doing more maths on the bike because I started realizing that I was on like well under the bike course record, and I didn't really believe it. So I was like calculating, like, if I do 13k at 44 kilometers an hour, blah blah blah. So I was thinking about that a lot on the bike, and then on the run, I guess the first 11k on the run is so many people that, like, you don't even think about the fact that you're actually running. It's more like trying to slow yourself down to not overheat. And also I had a real advantage is that because I came off with 6 minutes, I got out of their sight, you know, because the transition's quite big by the time you've gone in, run out and stuff like that. I was completely out of their sight, and I generally felt like I was alone because the time was so fast there on the bike. In my head, I was like, well, actually, even if I run a 3-hour marathon, I'll be under 8 hours. So this is
cool.
This is a great position to be in.
Yeah.
That was where my head was at that time. The only moment where kind of that maths came into play was at the halfway mark when I had a 3-minute lead, because that was basically bang on. So if I kept on at the same pace and they kept at the same pace, it would come down to the line, basically.
Wow.
And just Gustav started dropping these 320Ks for 3K uphill with a hot tailwind,
Wow.
where we were all slowing down to try and not overheat. He suddenly dropped a few 320s, and that was it. That was my 3-minute gone like that. And it was, I think, more than anything else during the performance, that's what's impressive. That moment he goes from Blumenfeld to me, because then once he'd overtaken me, actually, he won by 2 minutes, but he didn't quite. I mean, he probably slowed down to 3:30, which is still super fast. But that moment he started running at 3:20 at Sneem. That's like coming out of the energy lab uphill, where we were running at 4:30. So it's
that's where everybody blows
bonkers.
up. That's why it's notorious. Everybody looks at that as that's the time in the race where you just try and keep it together. It's not when you're accelerating. I mean, and 320K pace. That's insane, isn't it? Oh, jeez.
I know.
I mean, because we were watching it, and when you got to halfway and it was 3 minutes, it actually went back out for a bit. I don't know if you know that, but it went back out.
I got told, yeah. So Chris Lieto was out on course, and he was giving me quite regular splits, actually, and I don't know if he's allowed to do that or not. It wasn't just for me, I guess. And so I then found out that when Blumenfeld was going to the front, they were actually losing time to me.
Yeah.
And I think technically I negative splitted my marathon by just a few seconds, but
well done.
So I mean, I couldn't have done anything better. That was where my level was at on the run. And, but equally, like me and my dad, we've never quite focused yet on that, and that's where the most room for improvement is. And we're really excited about that.
I love that. How did it feel, when you heard the splits and then Gustav actually sort of caught and passed you? What was that feeling like? Was there, tell me.
Yeah. First of all, in my head, just before he caught me up, in my head, I was like, when he comes past, I'm just going to stay on his feet, and there's no reason that I can't run with him.
Mm-hmm.
And my head really, really wanted to, and I mean, you can kind of see it on the camera, but I tried for about half a second, and my body was like, no, don't do that. And, so that was what happened there. But Gustav came past me, and I've only kind of really known him since the Collins Cup, and he was kind of like, when I was getting older, not everybody, but there's a few people who clearly disliked me after going up against Sam Long. He was one of the first guys to say, mate, you're a great guy. And even during the race, when I had a shitter of a day, he was in a few battles behind and came past me, and he literally said, well, just come on, try and hold on, mate, and let's run together. And I did, and that's what I actually had in mind. I was like, well, actually, at the Collins Cup, I managed to run the last 4K with Gustav, so there's no reason that I can't do it here, because there was 6K left or something, and I just couldn't. But
you kept your head together, because what was interesting is you still kept the same time gap on Christian and Max. You kept them at bay, and for me, it was like a real show of defiance that I might have lost the win, but I'm not going to lose this whole battle. I'm still going to race all the way to the finish. There was a lot of positivity out of that. Do you kind of look at the entire race and go, is there anything you would have done differently?
I think there's one key moment, which would have been the swim. So I went out really hard on the first K of the swim, and actually the tide was coming in, so it kind of stuck us all together. And I should have done the opposite. I should have just kind of really put the hammer down on the way back, because I really feel I probably could have put at least 2 minutes into Gustav and Christian. I mean, normally I in St. George, I came out 5 minutes in front of Christian, and I guess, and I think they also have realised that, is that if it was an individual time trial, I generally think I would have beaten Gustav, and I think that's a good thing for me to have in my head. Yeah,
that's awesome. I love that. I love the fact that you understand the currents too. I often feel like athletes don't consider the types of current. I grew up only swimming in the surf and the ocean, so all I ever understood was rip currents and everything else. And for me, I never liked to lead a swim. And so when it was a current where it was, swimming into the current, I always got excited. If it was excited, leading into the swim, the first half is going to be into, I'll be like, great, I'll be able to get good position here, and then get ready to really have to increase the arm turnover when we start going, with the current, because that's when things will break up.
Some of you Aussies have amazing feel for the water. Like even some guys are terrible in the pool, but they'll get in.
Oh, I can't stand the pool. Yeah,
be amazing. No, but I discovered that I was. There's a few people like both Aaron and Max Stapley are two guys. I mean, they're good in the pool as well, but as soon as you stick them in open water, they're just, especially the sea, they're amazing.
Oh yeah, Aaron Royal's amazing open water swimming too. Look, you said you're going to sit down with your dad and look, start focusing on the marathon, over the next few years. Where else do you see an extra few minutes to win these big races? They've got the swim there. Yeah. It's an amazing performance. Where do you think?
It's funny. Yeah, it's funny you say that. We actually had a chat. Finally got to go over the race and stuff about 2 days ago. And so although I think the most gains are to be had on the run, he actually thinks they're to be had on the bike. There's no reason why in 2 or 3 years I shouldn't be able to hold about 340 watts, which would be which I agree with him. It's one thing doing it. It's like one thing saying it and another thing doing it. We have our goals set pretty high, and I guess you know what they say. It's like if you aim, I can't remember what the quote is. If you aim for the moon, you land on the stars, or the other way around.
Yeah, aim for the stars, land on the moon. Exactly. Yeah. No, I love that.
Yeah, so I guess that's our strategy. Yeah.
And you know what? I couldn't agree with your dad more. I mean, if you look at the numbers, the time spent on course, everybody says, bike for show, run for dough. That's the kind of expression that was always had. But I think you and others are starting to prove otherwise, that there's still considerable amount of time to be made up on the bike. I see you've got a beautiful bike. I looked at images. You look fantastic on. Are you riding the track speed concept with head wheels and fully decked out? Yeah,
that's another thing, is that people just see the wattage and stuff. But the Kona course really suits me in the sense that it's kind of like it's permanently rolling. So you need to know where to put the power. You need to know how to carry speed. So it's and I think that's why like Cam did so well and has done so well, is that there's lots of triathletes who are just very good at just creating power, but not knowing where to put that power. And I've grown up like cycling and even tried to do a bit of just cycle racing during the pandemic actually. And so I've always had a good feel for the road. And on certain courses in Europe, for instance, like you don't really see that, or even in Samarin, whether you're Lionel Sanders just like pushing raw power out, or me, like doesn't really make much difference. But on a course like Kona, it makes quite a big difference. So you could maybe have a guy who will also go out the same power as me, but just won't go as fast in Kona.
I love that. One final bit on Kona, and then I really want to just dissect your journey a little bit more, is running onto a Leahy Drive. What was that feeling like? Was it what you dreamed of, for your whole life? Was it the kind of reaction, or was it more or less, or what was that feeling like?
Well, first of all, the noise was just absolutely crazy. I don't know if there was always that many people, or it's because the racing was split into two. But yeah, I think they burst an eardrum because I've had a bit of a bad ear since. That was crazy. And then I just broke down. I was a big wuss, really. I started crying, and
don't you dare, mate! Don't you dare call yourself a big wuss. That is one of the emotional joys, and when the body releases, and you're too tired to fight it anyway, right? It's like you allow yourself to be emotional. So then your dad and mum, were they at the finish with you?
Yeah. So actually, I couldn't. Well, if I would have known I'd come fourth in Dallas, I probably would have. So I kind of did this trip to go to Dallas and then Hawaii. If I would have known I came fourth in Dallas, I would have got my mum and brother over, but I just couldn't afford to get them all over. So I paid for my dad to come over, which was I couldn't have done it without him. Just so many small things that he supported me for many, many years. And as I said before, he's not the most expressive of guys, but I managed to make him cry as well, which goes to show that it was clearly quite a big day for us both. Yeah, something that I'm fully aware also that it's kind of like that performance has hopefully changed, like not just my life but their lives as well. And that's always been my goal. My parents have invested so much just for me to have a good upbringing and just I guess be able to do whatever I wanted. And so they moved to France and really, really struggled, for the first 10 years. So for me to be able to give back is probably my biggest motivation.
Oh, mate, that's absolutely a beautiful story and very well said. There's very rare I haven't had one of the greatest in the sport come on the show, or sport or other sports too, where they haven't said that the importance of mum and dad and the family surrounding and that team that it takes, that everybody's all in and the sacrifices that are made. And, to hear that your dad cried with you is just such a special moment that you guys will cherish forever. So I think that's really, really
and I
cool.
guess I think that's what people liked about this story, is that people kind of seeing the Norwegians as just like amazing athletes, but almost like robotic. Like they're just so good that they're just unbeatable. They're in the lab every weekend and just working hard, but almost like what I've got on my side is like something that just money can't buy, and I think that's what people liked about the story. It was almost like a David vs Goliath. I'm with my dad training in the garage and trying to beat these two Norwegians, and that's what was great about it. And so as I said, like anybody can go in a lab and do what they're doing. Well, not anybody, but I mean, you can certainly buy what they've got to a certain extent. But like what I've got with my team and my family, especially, it's something that money can't buy.
Oh, that's awesome. I love it. It really is almost like the Rocky theme. Did you ever watch the Rocky movies?
Yeah.
Where he was just, putting himself in the toughest conditions. And I love that imagery. It really does. It's fantastic. So let's rewind the clock. Like you said, you've listened to this show. So it's one of my favorite things to do is to just understand your journey. You've mentioned a little bit, finding the sport at a young age and your parents being coaches in the sport. But take me through those early years and what did they look like?
As a kid, I guess I just loved sport and hated school, to be honest. I mean, I wasn't bad at school, but I found it pretty boring, and so I did whatever sport I could to get out of school. I did a bit of rugby, a bit of handball. Do you get handball in Australia? No, you don't get handball.
My next door neighbour growing up was from Yugoslavia. And he was the Australian handball coach, but none of us knew anything about it. I think we had one team in Australia at the time, so it wasn't big, but I do know it.
Yeah. And I did a bit of everything. Judo, actually, I was pretty good at judo because I had these massive fat ankles, and people would just kick them and like realize that it was a bad idea, and I just wouldn't move. I wouldn't move. I was like them. I don't know what them things that kind of have the weight at the bottom and like can't fall down. That kind of thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So then I was always really determined and driven that Kona was my thing. And so when I learned about this school in Faramo, actually, where I kind of could do a bit less school and a bit more training, I did the selection test there to get in. And I think this was just like a very regional level stuff. I live pretty close to Faramo. It was a regional level test to get in. And I think there was 3 slots, and there was only 3 of us asking to get in. And I was 4th or 5th of them tests and actually didn't get in. But then one of the guys got refused because there was no more space in that year. And so I kind of got in last minute. And I'm not going to say all this wouldn't have happened if that wasn't the case, but because I'd probably still be stubborn enough to find a way. But it certainly opened a lot of doors from there onwards. And that next year I came second at kind of like the youth national champs in both duathlon and the triathlon, mostly because I had a massive size advantage. I was pretty big at that age, and the other guys weren't. That year, the year before, actually, I'd come out at the water at the national champs. I came out like 138 out of 144 people or something. So people say, "Oh yeah, like you're a swimmer," but I mean, I'm really not. Like I've had some terrible swimming years in me. And
what age was that? What age was that where you were kind of coming so far back in the swim? How old were you?
This was like 14, yeah.
Oh, not that long ago. 10 years ago, you've turned yourself.
Yeah, so I was, so then I got some, because I came second at the national champs, I kind of got selected to go to Montpellier and train there with like Cassandra Beaugrand and Pierre Lecour and lots of the elite guys there.
Wow.
And also I was in a team called Poissy, and Poissy have all the best swimmers. Like it's
always been the best club, the best racing club in France.
Yeah,
it seems,
so
anyway.
I just kind of went unnoticed, because I was a nobody, and they already had Konanks and Aurélien Raphael, and their strategy in these Grand Prix races was just to like have 3 or 4 great swimmers, and they just do a breakaway and they ride together, and then that's what they do almost every single race. And I would never come out like breakaway. I would always be in the second pack, and I wasn't even allowed to ride, because I'd effectively be riding back on my teammates. So I was just a bit frustrated with that, but I mean, I had an amazing time with them guys. Just the level in them races is the density of them Grand Prix is ridiculous. And often I would come off the bike in the main, like the front main pack. But I mean, I don't know, if I ran a 15:35K, which for me was a really good time. Yeah, like I'd probably still come like 40th, or 35th. Or I don't know.
25 years ago, that would have had you in a reasonable spot. But there's so many young guys running sub 15s and even sub 14s these days. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. I think Hayden Wild could run that on one leg, like generally.
He's a speedster, isn't he? Mate, that's awesome though, that you were still, I love the fact that even at a young age, you were able to develop your craft by racing often against the world's best. You always had the best in your back door. So you may not have won a lot, in some sense, but
or at all, yeah.
Or at all, but you were always up against the very, very best, so you knew what the bar was. We look back as Australians, and in the 80s and 90s, Australians were dominating the sport. And so Chris McCormack, myself, Craig Alexander, we never got to win much in the early 90s, but we were racing Greg Welsh, Brad Bevan, Miles Stewart, who were all world champions. And so you just developed your craft, and it was like, and then you go out to face the world, and you're like, it's not too bad. It's actually easier than a local race. So I love that you did that.
I think that's what happened this year in Kona, actually. So we had 4 French guys in the top 15, which was really good for us as a nation, and top 3 in the top 10. Yeah. And actually the 3 in the top 10, I mean, we're all really young. I'm 23, Clement's 23, and Leon's 24, I think, which is because we have some amazing, even now, like long distance, some of that we have Emberman and Alpe d'Huez, and there's so many, or Gerardmer, and like if you win that race, like you're doing well, and some of that, like even like a guy like Clement, he's like, I mean, I can't beat that guy on them kind of races. He's so good at, like, the courses where in France are really hard, and like he's a real specialist, and like he's like a household name in France because he's just really good at the French long course scene.
Yeah, he's good technically on the descending and that, or what is it? Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, he's a smaller guy, so he's obviously light on the climbs, and he's just, I mean, the French, they just love to train, so he just trains silly hours in the mountains, and that does him good for them kind of races.
Hey, a little off topic, I'm curious, obviously you got the British accent. I don't know if you know that you do, but you do. Did you ever consider, racing for Britain, or has France always been home?
Yeah, it's a genuine question I've been asking myself even this year, like from an identity point of view for sponsors and stuff. I don't really know, but actually I'm almost coming to realize that I can kind of have both. I think it's not too bad, and I almost get the best of both worlds. But yeah, when I was younger, so I had the British nationality because both my parents were English, and so that year when I came second as a youth, or I came second in duathlon, second in triathlon champs, and they just like completely ignored me because I was English. So they were like, they would say, and the first person is blah blah blah, and then they would just not say anything, wait until I'd come past, and then the third guy they'd say, and the second guy. So
wow.
I got really frustrated with that, and so what we did was I had to wait until I was 18, or both my parents had to ask for dual nationality, and then I kind of automatically got it. So we did that, and it meant I could get into the French camps and stuff, and it was a good job because now with Brexit, like every man and the dog's asking for dual nationality, and it takes like 5 years or something.
Yes, you already got it. So was there any point then, obviously getting second at both the duathlon and the triathlon nationals, you've had this dream from a young age, your parents have had all these Ironman age groupers at camps the whole time, you've been living and breathing the sport, and you're passionate about the sport. Was there a moment, or is it over time, that you kind of realize, actually, I do have some ability, and some talent at this? Was there one moment, or was it over time?
Yeah, I've never been a big believer in ability. As I said, I've gone from being one of the worst swimmers in the pack to one of the best, and but I think it's almost like ability. I always almost see it as like a mental thing. Like what I'm grateful for is to been born with my brain almost, more than my body, because like I have almost an ability to kind of know what I want and be able to motivate people around me to kind of go and get that. And I think that's like the biggest skill. That's bigger than any other skill you can have. And I think I remember reading or listening to Alistair Brownlee say something similar when he got asked if like he kind of thought that it was his natural ability or his mindset or something, and he kind of like brought them both together. He's like, yes, it's my mindset, but that could also be seen as a natural ability almost, and I guess there's also a part of education. And my parents have basically never, like, if I said I wanted to be an astronaut, then they would literally say, yeah, well, let's do it. And
wow.
I think I mean, clearly I'm more of a natural cyclist than I am runner, and that's what I like there about triathlon, is that you can really, I generally think that whatever you're dealt with, whatever the cards you're dealt with, you can win. And that's what it's a very honest racing Ironman, and that's what I've always liked more than the short courses that I kind of struggled with, like sometimes. So when I was doing the Grand Prix races, like, one week I'd come out 6th of the water, like, and Mola would come out 60th, and the next week, like, Mola would come out 60th, and I'd come out 60th, and I was like, how's this possible? Like, what's happening here? And I just kind of, I like the honesty of Ironman. Like, I genuinely feel like the strongest man wins. So that's why I went to longer, of course.
It's music to my ears, sorry to bring it back to me for a moment, but it's kind of like I listened to you, and one of the frustrations I always had with the World Cup and the draft legal kind of thing, I always felt like, we're missing a bit there. And I was fortunate enough to have Olympic distance non-drafting in the US, and it was sort of some pretty big money. And I love the honesty of that, where it was even every now and then we even did have individual time trial races. And all sorts of different formats where you're on your own. And that really showed up who could do all three and who couldn't. And so I hear you when you say that, the honesty of finding a race where you're on your own. And I loved earlier when you said, if it had been an individual time trial, I potentially could have won Kona. And for me, you saying that and acknowledging that within yourself is just so powerful. Because you're basically saying, hey, if anything happens on race day, anything, I know I've got it under control. Because I know if I'm on my own, swim, bike or run, I've got this. And it's just so powerful that you have that. I think that's fantastic.
But I think all the people who you really remember in this sport, like, I think they've all had that mentality, like, I'm almost sure that at the Olympics, if you would have put Alistair like in a time trial mode, like he is the best swimmer and he is almost the best biker and he's definitely the best runner, and it's the same with when the year Frodeno broke the record in 2:19. I think he came out second in the swim, had the second fastest bike and the fastest run, so he's up there in all three disciplines. And yeah, I mean, it's great as you said that, like, you had the opportunity to race, like, that there was big money in non-draft in the Olympic. And honestly, like, I probably would have loved to have given that a try if that was like a thing now, and I probably would have gone to that before going to Ironman. And generally, actually, it's a shame that
you would have cleaned up, and I'm grateful you weren't around 15 years ago.
What city times did you used to run?
It's a long time ago, but off the bike, I was still only around that 30-minute mark. I wasn't as fast as
that's terrible.
No, but the next generation, Alex.
I wouldn't be close to that. I would have to put a big gap on the bike to get.
But like you said, it was like I wasn't a runner. I never ran a high school running race at high school. I'm serious. I just loved the idea of running. And so I ran and ran. And all I did was watch Kenyans and Ethiopians and Eritreans. And I just had a mad love for running. And I trained with John Brown, a British marathon. He got fourth at 2 Olympics and fourth at 2 World Championships, but phenomenal runner. And I just ran. And so my running improved from being a 32, 33 minute 10K down to 29 lows on a good day. But it took years. It took 20 years. So my point is, when you said that earlier, like, I believe that my brain is my weapon and that anything's possible. That's what you have. And I couldn't agree more with that. And it's just, where do you want to put yourself over these next sort of 5, 10, 15 years? You'll make anything happen. Hey, while I've got you, I know you've got plenty on. Are you up for some rapid fire questions?
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. Okay. Worst subject at school?
French.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't laugh, but you're living in France. You are French. Okay. Okay.
They're so difficult with it. French language is like, I wasn't good, but somehow at the equivalent to A levels, I then managed to do all right. But my whole years in school, terrible.
That's great. All right, first car you ever owned?
Volkswagen Golf, a really old Volkswagen Golf, yeah.
Cool.
That my grandparents bought for me.
Oh, good on them. Thanks, grandparents. All right, favorite Netflix or whatever streaming service you use that everybody should watch?
Can I say a film?
Yeah.
King Richard.
King Richard. It's on my list.
Yeah, it's about the Williams sisters.
Oh, very cool. Most inspiring performance you've ever seen in the sport of triathlon?
Jan Frodeno, 2019.
Yeah, one of the greatest performances of all time, I agree. 3 people, non-family members, you'd want to have a dinner with?
Muhammad Ali.
Nice.
Picasso.
Wow, I like it.
And just some amazing family member that I never got to meet, which I don't know. Somebody that could tell me more about like where my family comes from. Yeah.
Picasso, mate. Are you an artist?
My mum is or was, but no, I've never really explored my creative side, mainly because French education doesn't really allow it. But I live in the town next to where Picasso used to live, so it's his museum.
Very cool.
Yeah, I got a frame painted up last year, and I kind of got his drawings done all over it. It was really cool. Yeah.
Oh, that is cool.
I'm a fan.
Yeah. All right. Best training location in the world?
Amélie-les-Bains, where I live. The more I travel, the more I like it there.
It's brilliant where I did one training up in Les Anglais, just outside of Font-Romeu.
Okay, yeah.
Many years ago. I loved it. Beautiful. All right. What decade of music is best?
Hey, I haven't lived many decades. You're asking a 23-year-old.
Yeah, but you still, like, I wasn't born in the 60s, but I still rank the 60s music as some of the best. Okay.
I think there's some really good music from 2010, 2020. Yes,
my generation. All right. If a movie was played of your life, even though it's still pretty early on, who would you want to play you?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to refer back to that King Richard. So yeah, I would say Venus Williams. Venus is the oldest one, right?
Yeah.
Venus Williams in King Richard.
No, but they're going to play a movie of your life. Who's playing a movie of your life?
Oh, who would? Oh, okay, get you know.
Yeah. You can't have Venus Williams playing a movie of your life.
Yeah, Venus Williams smashing it out in Kona. Who would I want? Let's go for Johnny Depp. Nice.
That's a good choice. Mate, this has been absolutely fantastic. What's next for you? You're going to have a little break here soon, then plan out what you're going to do early. Any early racing, or is it just focus on getting back to work?
I'm actually driving around Europe to find which is actually the fastest bike, because there's a few bike sponsors that want me, and so I'm going to do that and a few other business meets, and and then come back home in about 2 weeks, and no, it's really exciting stuff, and stay tuned, because whatever bike I do choose is the fastest.
Wow! Everybody hear that? Yeah. My goodness! Yeah. And I was giving Trek a plug early.
Not the brand that's giving me the biggest check, because I'm really.
You want to win.
You want to win on performance.
Yeah,
exactly.
I get it. I mean, it's the same with running shoes. It's like, make sure you get whatever's the fastest running shoe. But mate, Sam, this was just, I thought I was going to interview a great athlete. I ended up just interviewing just a really great person. I'm so impressed with you, honestly. Just your gratefulness, your respectfulness, your love of your family. You're a good human being.
I'm really bad at taking praise. So you can stop the compliments now, and we'll have a chat and talk about triathlon next time.
Yeah, all right, buddy. We can go back to sport. But honestly, thanks for coming on the show and just sharing your journey and your knowledge and just what that Kona experience was like. We all get to live vicariously through these stories, and so we really appreciate you coming on, mate.
Pleasure, mate, and hope it's the first of many.
All right, of course it will be. All right, thanks everyone else for listening. Thanks for sharing the show and all your feedback. Also, you can find all the timestamps and everything else at bennettendurance.com/media.
Thanks a lot for listening. If you've enjoyed the show, your support would truly be appreciated. You can visit the Patreon page, or you can subscribe with your podcast app of choice. Don't miss the next episode, so subscribe and be notified. For show notes, if you want to know more, please visit bennettendurance.com. I'm Phil Liggett, and on behalf of Greg Bennett, here's to the next time, and I hope you will join Greg again very soon.